Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. My name is Jason Lueken, and I'm the Precision Ag Manager here at Superior Ag.
And I'm Adam Messmer. I'm a Precision Ag Specialist here.
Okay, so this morning we're going to spend a little bit of time talking to you about early season nutrient placement. But I think before we can do that, we probably need to address the earboard up here in front of us. So remember Todd talking this morning about Big Yield Bob, right? So that's his corn represented here on the top. Is it perfect? No, there's a few boo-boos there, right? We've got a late emerger, but overall that corn is pretty uniform. Those ears are pretty good, pretty uniform. But on the bottom here, we've got Tom, right? He was out messing around, didn't have his affairs in order, didn't have his planter set up correctly, didn't get his meters tested, so he's definitely got some issues going on there. So you guys have heard different talks today about, improving yields, different things we can do, but those things really don't matter that much until we get this right here, right? So we've harped on it before in the past, but I'm going to challenge you guys again. Go home, walk around in your fields a little bit, pull some ears back. Hopefully everything looks very similar to the top. If it's somewhere in between, talk to Adam and I, and we'll come out and maybe we can look at some different things on your planter to help improve that. Up here on the top of this board is our representation of our precision planting pogo stick. So it's an evaluation tool that we can come out in the spring. When that corn say, V4, V5, we don't want to get it too big, and we can evaluate your stand, right? So we're looking, it'll calculate skips, doubles, singulation, and then we record the late emergers, right? So it's going to give us a nice report here, but I think this, looking at these ears, is for today's purposes, is maybe a little bit more impactful. So with that, we're going to start talking about a couple products for these early season nutrients. So you kind of heard Jesse talk about maybe the why. If you've been to his stop, we're going to talk more about the how, okay?
So the first product we're going to talk about today is FurrowJet. So FurrowJet was actually designed for phosphorus placement, but it also allows us to put our PGRs, our insecticide, our zinc through here as well. You can do one product or two. So if you're doing a single product, you'll see, I'll pass this around at the end, but each nozzle you'll split. Let's say you're doing 5 gallons per acre. You're going to split that a third, a third, a third. If you're going to be doing a two-product system, the wings, outside two wings, are tied together as a product, and the center is another product. So this board right here, it shows it really good, but the way this is designed is when this is going through, it's also breaking your sidewall compaction. So if you're going to be going out and it's just a little bit tacky, this will help eliminate some problems. And it also has the standard Keaton tail to get good seed to soil contact as well.
Nope. So like Adam said, probably the biggest advantage of a FurrowJet over your standard Keaton or your totally tubular or that type of in-furrow system are those wings, right? So we're definitely going to break sidewall compaction if we have it. The other thing it does is it kind of creates more of a zone around the seed. So we're putting that fertilizer kind of out to the side and in the middle, so that's going to encourage better root growth. We get better root interception to those early season nutrients, right? We're trying to drive root growth and get that plant up and out of the ground as quickly as possible.
One watch out on FurrowJet, we've come to find out over the years, is 1030-40 is a no-go. Just a really dirty product, and when you're splitting this, 3 ways, them orifices are really small, and you're going to have plugging issues. So we've been moving people more to like a 725-5, more refined, cleaner product, and have eliminated all those problems. So just one washout.
Well, we found with ours this first year we had it that the wings, when the soil is right, it just kind of breaks it up and it actually pulls it in on the seed, so you get good dirt to the seed. That's what we found with ours.
Yep.
Now, if it'd be a little on the wet side, that may not be there as much, but it just rolled that dirt in on the seed.
Right, it almost folds it right on top before your closing wheel comes in and
we feel we had a more even coverage. Of course, we're totally no-till, so and The thing is, you have to put that down enough so that you're not catching residue.
Yep. Yeah, you got a little gauge you put in the seed trench to figure out where to set this. So depending on your planter and where your depth is set.
Is that facing the seed on a ridge, the way it looks in the picture there?
No, your seed's still in your trench.
Yeah.
This is just representing the way that slices the sidewall. Yeah, you still have your V.
And that's why we want to run that Keaton ahead of it, because that's going to make sure it pushes that seed to the bottom of that V.
Right.
Yep.
So,
I'll
Any-
pass this around so you guys can see.
so anybody in here, show of hands, run Xyway the past year or two? So, good portion of the group. So when we first started running Xyway, a lot of guys were running it in furrow, and there was kind of a big blow up on social media that it, messed up emergence, messed up the germination. We locally didn't see it near as severely as what the social media sites and stuff kind of made it out to be. So kind of redid the label on it. So if we're going to run Xyway in furrow, we need to plug this center nozzle. Okay, so Adam's got little plugs. You just plug that one. The thing we need to watch, if we plug that center one, we need to probably do the recalculation on our orifices and make sure we're still within our orifice size. Most of the time we are, but if we were right on the edge of one or the other, we may have to resize some orifices. Okay, so again, if we're running in furrow Xyway, we need to make sure we're plugging that center. Does it make sense? Okay, so any questions?
How long do them wings last on there?
When you go to replace your opening discs, then that'd be about the time. So they have good shelf life.
So the question was how often do these wing tips on the furrow jet need to be replaced? So like Adam said, when you replace your seed,
Depending on how sandy the ground
right?
is.
That's kind of the
A lot of
rule.
variables play.
Kind of the rule of the thumb when you replace your seed disc blades, replace those wing tips.
And they came out with a high wear one too that I've only had 2 years of experience on, so they may last a lot longer too. So.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we'll transition to nitrogen placement then. So for years we've been putting nitrogen on with the planter in a 2x2, single disc. A lot of guys, maybe some of us are dribbling out the back. This is kind of the newest way to put it on is Precision Planting's Conceal. So we can do it dual-sided where we're putting it on both sides of the seed, or we can do single-sided, okay? And I encourage everybody when we kind of get wrapped up or done here to come up and look at the row unit we've got up here. It's got pretty well every Precision Planting product that you can think of on it. And the side closest to you has the gauge wheel removed so you can kind of see that knife kit. And then the back side's got the wheel so you can kind of see how that fits in there. But like I said, with Conceal, we're going after our nitrogen. So that's our 28 or 32. That also gives us an opportunity to put some sulfur in there, some boron. We definitely do not want those two products, the sulfur and the boron or the nitrogen, in furrow. That is a 2x2 only play, okay? So last year we had a grower that bought the Conceal system, put it on his planter, and he was wanting to make sure the spend of money that he put out there was worth it. So what he did is he took half his planter and plugged the one side of the Conceal. So essentially his 16-row planter, half of it was dual-sided Conceal and the other half was single-sided. And changed his orifices so we had the same rate. So same product, same rate. The only difference is single-sided versus dual-sided. So he did it again for us this year. And if you can see there in those pictures, this one here is the dual-sided Conceal. So quite a bit more root mass there, okay? So when we did this last year, we didn't really dig these roots up, so, but we did take at the yield. So if you look here at the yield, that's 8.5 bushel yield advantage. And that's just not one strip through the field, right? Since the planter was split, that's pass after pass after pass to create that data. So it's got a lot of data points in there. That's just not one strip through the field. Well, everybody's asking, well, did it pay for itself? Or how long did it take for it to pay for itself? On a 16-row planter, this was last year, right at 100 acres. Okay, so if we're planting several hundred acres, that paid him back pretty quick. Okay, so there's definitely an advantage to putting that that early nitrogen on each side of the seed.
But how much is the difference between using the conceal versus just dribble behind the unit on the
Single-sided,
deal?
well, I don't know. We didn't test it dribbling it out the back. But the thing with dribbling it out the back, as soon as that nitrogen's laying there, it's susceptible to loss. Whenever you put it in the ground, you've got less susceptibility to losing it.
You have to put aggregate on it.
Yeah. So, any other questions? Okay, so one watch out that we've kind of seen on conceal, if we're going to run dual-sided conceal, it's highly recommended that you run some kind of hydraulic downforce system, right? So you either run Precision Planting's Delta Force, John Deere's got their own system out there. It doesn't really matter which one, right? We need to make sure we're running a hydraulic downforce. So kind of what we're looking at on the visual here is a map, a downforce map, and two things that you can see. First thing across the middle here, that's some kind of little wash or drainage. And when we're going across the field planting 5 mile an hour, it's reading and adjusting 5 times a second. Okay, so it's picking that stuff up pretty quick. This other diagonal going across the field, if you would zoom in on that a little bit, you would see 2 distinct lines. Anybody know what that might be? It's tire tracks from something, right? It picked that up and adjusted for it, right? It recognized it and adjusted for it. So that's why whenever we're putting conceal on these planters, and we're putting it definitely on both sides, that's creating a little bit more resistance to get that unit in the ground to our seeding depth. So that's why we need that hydraulic downforce system on there. The other thing that, as you go across the field and start seeing these different variability and things like that in the soil, you're going to map that, right? So you can start kind of learning about different things in your field. And then the other thing back on the conceal, when you're planting and putting nitrogen on with conceal, that's a set distance away from that seed. If you go around any kind of contour or curve back in the old days with the single disc fertilizer openers, we're always worried about getting the nitrogen in right there on the seed trench. That will not happen with conceal. Since it's in the gauge wheel, it's going to stay that set distance away from that seed at any given time.
Going back on hydraulic downforce, I mean, if you're going to try to do dual conceal with airbags, just really be careful. You're going to put a lot more downforce to try to keep it in the ground, especially in no-till situations. But I mean, you can do it, but definitely pay attention.
The conceal and no-till, is that not a potential dragging issue? Do what? The conceal
Yep.
knife.
Yeah. So no, because the knife is in there, it pushes everything out. Now, if you were to take that knife out, this tire would plug completely up.
That knife acts as a scraper to keep that clean.
So it'll knock all rocks out.
You're talking about it dragging?
Dragging.
Okay, the only time we've ever seen an issue with dragging is if you go out there and burn down and that stuff's it's a little rank yet, a little tough, it'll want to sometimes drag a little bit. Okay?
You really shouldn't be planting that anyway.
We've got a lot of conceal out, and we don't have many guys complain about plugging, dragging, anything like that. The only time we've seen it a little bit is if you've got, some big cover crop or something, and it's kind of in that stage where it's dying, it'll get a little rank sometimes, and we'll drag a little bit.
What could happen if it's too wet, and you'll notice right away, is the mud so the split gauge wheel goes over here, you'll get mud on either side of this knife, and then these tires have rivets on them, and it'll pop them rivets off. So the rubber seal will come off your tire. But you don't see that very often, but it has happened in the past.
Okay, any other questions?
Did that 8 bushel, did it have nitrogen stabilizer with it?
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, only difference in that whole trial was one-sided versus two-sided, right? Same rate, same product, same everything. Any other questions?
Jason, you ought to tell them when you put the one side on, you just got to add, what, $400 more? Because the bracket tree is
Right.
all the same.
Right.
You got to buy the other boot. And
Yeah, you're,
Right, it's
you're
another
basically
wheel
just
and
buying
knife
another
kit.
knife and another wheel. Yep.
Yeah, so it's not double your money whenever you put it single versus dual-sided. Good point. Okay, so hopefully it gives you a few things to think about as far as putting nutrients on with the planter, trying to get that plant off to an early, more vigorous start. Remember the furrow jet is there to help with our phosphorus placement and the sidewall compaction and the conceal. There's definitely a big advantage there to run a dual-sided conceal, but if that's something you want to do, we need to probably talk about Delta Force if you don't have that. So anybody in the group that already has some kind of hydraulic downforce system, you definitely need to talk to Adam about putting conceal on. And then, like I said, the advantages to Delta Force, whenever we look at this ear board and we see those late emergers, it's usually one of two things is the culprit. We've either got an air pocket around the seed, which that's not a downforce issue. That's either a closing wheel issue or a stuff getting hairpinned in the seed trench. But the other thing that can cause it is that inconsistent seeding depth, and that Delta Force will help clean that up. So I think with that, if there's any questions, we'll take those. We'll be around all day. If you want to come up and look at like I said, look at the row unit. Very rarely do we have the opportunity for you guys to see everything we offer all on one row unit at one spot. So even after lunch, if you want to come down and look at it one-on-one, grab us and we'll come back down here and look at it. Okay.
Hey, question is, going back to that conceal, if you're putting it on a bean planter, thinking about doing some things, what do you think about it running in after wheat in the straw? Would it run, or will it log up the straw?
It should run. The problem you're going to probably run into is as far as downforce getting soil penetration and after straw is usually the worst conditions, right? That ground all the moisture's been sucked out of it most of the time. But it just seems like if guys struggle, it's trying to get double crop beans planted. So that could maybe hinder a little bit of getting seeding depth, just because that's more resistance you've got to overcome.
You're not going real deep with that knife either. So inch and a quarter is probably what most people running there.
I'm more worried about the leg tearing up when you get the straw running in front of that.
Do you run a chopper, or you just broadcast
Yeah,
it?
I do, but I don't. I already run it in corn, but I'm talking about if we got put on a bean planter if we ever go to that point.
Right, a chopper would probably help.
I don't have straw or not.
Yeah, we've never really run conceal
You
and
wouldn't want to run on heavy dew in the morning when it's real wet and tough too. It might be a more drag issue.
yeah.
Once it's dry, you cut.
Yeah. So you pull this nut and you pull this knife up. You don't take it out, because if you take it out, then the tire's going to plug up. But yeah, you can actually take it out. Yep. Just leave the knife in there, but it don't have to be touching the ground. So you guys with the inner plants and stuff, both troughs in the same line with that. Just pick it up. Any other questions?
What you mixing with your Xyway to get it to that little gluey tube, little paint thinner? Seriously.
Yeah, it's pretty dirty.
I mean, it's kind of thick and pretty viscous.
Is there a monitoring system on there so you know you're getting that product on?
So we do offer a liquid monitoring system that it's basically a little bitty flow meter you put in line on every little hose going to the row unit, and it will tell you two things: one, if it's flowing, and two, what it's actually flowing.